ComfyUI is the best solution and software for running the Stable Diffusion locally on your computer. It's a free and open source software that you can download it from GitHub. Before downloading the ComfyUI, you have to make sure that you have installed the Git on your computer. Because you want to work with GitHub, it's very necessary to download this software and install it. And also the 7-zip for extracting the compressed file. Installation of the ComfyUI is very easy. You should go here, click on install ComfyUI and download the portable version. Now the file is downloaded. You can right click on the file, go to 7-zip and click on extract here or in any other folder. It will take some time for extracting. Extracting of the ComfyUI is finished and you can run the ComfyUI by running the NVIDIA GPU. I am not recommended to using the CPU version. Before that, we have to install some necessary extension. The first extension that is very necessary for ComfyUI is the Manager. And it will help you to install and download many different models on your ComfyUI. So go to the GitHub page, scroll down, and the most easy way is downloading the bat file. You can right click on the file and save this bat file in your ComfyUI. And here is the bat file. Okay, let me move that. This is the bat file. And just you have to run the bat file. After running the bat file, you can see the CMD window will be open and it will automatically download the necessary files. And now we can run the ComfyUI. So after running the ComfyUI, you can see the CMD window and you have to wait for launching the ComfyUI. All right, now we have the ComfyUI in your computer. But before generating the image, we have to download some other files with the name of checkpoint, okay? Because here now, if I click on CCPT name, it cannot load anything. If you go to the folder, go to the ComfyUI folder and go to the models, you can see the folder with the name of checkpoint. We have to download the pre-trained Stable Diffusion model in this folder, and after that we can start to generating the image. For downloading the Stable Diffusion models, we have many different ways. One of them is going to the Manager and click on Install Model. After that, you can scroll down. Here you can see many different options, and from here, you can see some checkpoints. The checkpoints in Stable Diffusions are coming with different versions, SDXL and also SD 1.5 and SD2. You can select one of the checkpoints and click on Install. Another best way for finding the checkpoints is the Civit AI. Go to civitai.com and after that go to Models. Click on Filter and go to the base model. Select the version of the checkpoint that you need. For example, now I want SD 1.5. And after that, click the sort on highest rate. Okay. And for example, here you can see the highest rate of the checkpoints. And most of the time I'm using the realistic vision. So click on that and exactly select the version of 5.1. Also, you can see there are some newer version, but this version is working very perfect. So select the version and after that click on download. Also, it's very important to read the information and description of the checkpoint here exactly in Civit AI, because all the time you can find some recommended. For example, the recommended for writing the prompt that are working best with this checkpoint or negative prompt or some setting and parameters and many other things. So every time make sure that you are reading the descriptions from the checkpoints, and also after downloading you have to place the downloaded file in the checkpoint folder. But also I want to explain, instead of copying the downloaded model in the models folder, okay, you can make a copy from this model folder and place that on your computer outside of the ComfyUI folder. So if you delete your ComfyUI, or if you want to have some different version of ComfyUI, then you can use the same downloaded checkpoints and models. And also, if you are using automatic 1111, you can add the custom path for the models to the ComfyUI. For doing that, you should rename this file. Okay, extra model underline pass.yaml. Just remove the example, and after that open the file in some editor. Here you should write the base path for the models that you want to place, and after that for each kind of for example models, you should define the kind of the model, and after that the folder name. So this is the rule with by configuring this YAML file, you can add extra paths for models, checkpoints, and other files that you are downloading for ComfyUI. It's very useful, and every time I'm doing that. This is my YAML file after editing, and you can see that I am using the files, checkpoints, controlnet, LORAs, and other things that are in D drive in my computer, but my ComfyUI is in drive C. So it can help me easily to install different version of ComfyUI and keep and organize all my checkpoints and controlnet and other models. I open my ComfyUI, and also in the CMD window you can see that it added all extra paths here. When your ComfyUI is starting, you can see all these extra paths. And about the CMD window, it's very important to remain, if you click with mouse on the window, this window will be paused, and after that your ComfyUI cannot work. So every time make sure that you are pressing enter. Okay, it's very important. And after that, minimize the CMD window. All right, this is the default workflow. From here, load your checkpoint. For example, realistic vision V5, and here you can write your prompt. Try to keep it simple. Your prompt should be in two parts, positive and negative. From here, you can define the resolution of your image that you want to generate. The name is latent, and this node is doing the processing. For start the processing, you should press Q prompt. And after that, it's trying to load the checkpoint, and the processing will be finished after some seconds. If you take a look to CMD window, here you can see that, for example, your prompt was generated totally in 5 seconds, included loading checkpoint. Again, if you press Q prompt, you can see the next image was generated in about 1 second. So this is the first simple image generating in ComfyUI. All generated image will store in ComfyUI and in output folder. This is a node that saving the images. And for example, here, if you write, for example, render /ComfyUI, after that, it's try to make a folder with the name of render and save the image with the name of ComfyUI inside this folder. Also, you can add the date and timing to file name prefix. If you want to see the preview during the image generating, for example, now I cannot see the preview of the image when it's trying to generate the image. If you want to see the preview, go to Manager and from the preview method, select the auto. After that, when you are pressing the key, you can see the preview during the rendering. It's very important to monitor your hardware when you are working with Stable Diffusion and ComfyUI. For example, now my GPU is about 22 gigabyte. I have 22 gigabyte of Vram, and I have increased the latent size. Now when I am pressing the Q, you can see that my GPU is going up to 9.9 gigabyte and it's trying to generate the image. And also my GPU temperature is going high. Okay, so pay attention to 9.9. Okay, now I want to disable the preview method and one more time pressing the Q. Now it's in Ksampler and also it's using only 8.8 gigabyte. The last time the image was generated in 27 seconds, and this time let me see how much it will take time. This time it generated only in 24 seconds, so also it saved about 3 seconds also in generating time. So if you don't need the preview, you can disable that, or if you have low VRAM, you can disable the preview. One another tip is underclocking your GPU. For example, for my GPU, I have installed the EVGA software, okay, and I have decreased the GPU temperature. For example, the maximum temperature that I have defined is 83 degrees of centigrade. And it's very important because sometimes you are sending many different queue and it can cause it can make some problem for your GPU. So please install the software that is related to your GPU and decrease the GPU temperature. So in this way, your computer will be safe. It's more than 1 year that I am working with the Stable Diffusion, and I can tell you it's very important to have some fundamental information about Stable Diffusion, and you have to understand that how the Stable Diffusion is working. This is one of the best articles, and also there is a video. I will place the link and you can find more information for a Stable Diffusion. This is a very simple diagram to show the Unet architecture. So for example, you're starting by inputting some noise inside this architecture, and after processing and doing some calculation, it's trying to generate an image. It's very important to remember each time that you are processing a Unet is one step. Okay, so for example, if you process in ComfyUI only in one step, the meaning is you are doing the processing only one time in Unet. And when you are setting the steps into 20, okay, so you have processed your image for 20 times in the Unet. Okay, and the internal steps, the internal parts in the Unet are not related to the step number. And this is the reason each time that you are This is a great image to show how the Stable Diffusion is working, and also it's very similar to ComfyUI. The green box is latent space. We are defining the latent space in ComfyUI with this node and the dimension here. Unet is inside the latent space, okay? So all this green box actually are happening in Ksampler, and some of these nodes are only sending some value or information to the Ksampler. For example, for the Unet, we should use some pre-trained data, and exactly the pre-trained data is a checkpoint. The checkpoint has three different outputs. One output is model. Model is Unet, okay? You can replace the name of the model with Unet. And here we have some conditioning that will connect to the Unet, okay? And prompt is the conditioning. You can see the output type, okay? It's some kind of conditioning. And also here we have some encoder and decoder. All encoder and decoder are coming from the VAE, variational autoencoder. And the node that can do encoding or decoding is VAE Decode or VAE Encode. So everything is very, very similar. We are sending and we are defining some information or size for the latent space. After that, inside the latent space, we have the pre-trained Unet, that is the checkpoint. We have the prompt, that are conditionings. And after that, for converting the informations that are in the latent, we are using some encoder and decoder that are placed here. Here is what I found out from Stable Diffusion, how it works. So let me explain to you. A Stable Diffusion is a neural network that is trying to discover a connection between numbers and pixels. For example, you know that images are made from pixels, and each pixel has three different values: red, green, and blue. And for example, if you write the value of each pixel on a table, after that maybe you can find some connection between these numbers. For example, here you can see, take a look to these 9 pixels that are working together. And for example, with some specific algorithms, we can extract some number from the connection between these 9 different pixels. There are many different solutions for extracting the information, and Stable Diffusion is trying to do that. This processing is very important, and it's processing each 3 by 3 pixels, and finally it will find output for them. The processing will be applied to image in different resolution and with different noise level, and also with different filters. For example, imagine that it is happening inside the neural network. So it's processing the image, for example, for more than 8,000 times, and for each 3 by 3 pixels. Finally, it can find many numbers for each image, and it can find a connection between these numbers. Applying these filters and extracting these numbers is happening inside a Unet. Okay, actually Unet is an architecture for exactly doing this. This is a very schematic view of the Unet, and you can see it has input image, and after doing some processing on the image, it can make some output. and these are the name of the processing. And here you can see many different blue arrow with the name of convolution 3x3, and also there are some other different processing. Here you can see that we are sending an image into the Unet, and after that it will create 64 different copies of this image with different filters. For example, let me show you. Okay, if we extract the layers from the Unet, you can see that we have applied different filters on the image, and for each image Unet will do the convolution processing and will collect the output numbers. So totally, if you calculate the number of the image and layer, you can see that each image will convert into 7,800 other images with different resolutions, and for all of them it's trying to do the convolution and other processing, and all these informations will be stored in your checkpoint. And let me show you another parameter. During processing the Unet, also it's trying to inject some noise into the image in each step. For example, now in the input you can see I have some noise, and in the output I have more noise. In the next step I will send the output again to the input, and during the processing also it is injecting some more noise to the image. So finally I can see that the output of the Unet will be full of noise, but we have many useful information from this image. Every time that we are processing the Unet is one step, and for example for converting image to the noise and extracting image, at least maybe we need about 5 or 10 steps at the minimum. And during this processing in each step we are processing more than 7,800 images, and for all images each 3x3 pixel will be processed with convolution, and all of these informations will store in the checkpoint. So this is the reason that training a diffusion model could be very expensive. So when we are injecting noise into image and extracting information from the image is forward diffusion, and when we are trying to generate an image from noisy image, it will be reverse denoising process. These are some other photos that can explain how the forward diffusion is working, and in all of them you can see they are trying to convert image into noise and also extracting information with convolution filter and convolution processing. And these are also some other photos, for example for forward diffusion. In this photo, in this diagram, you can see totally how the stable diffusion is working. One part is Unet, and this is a Unet, okay, only this part. The information that will process by the Unet and also the Unet will be placed inside the latent space, and if you want to send image into the latent space you should use some encoder, and after that when you want to send your prompt into the latent space, or if you want to use some control net, you are using conditioning. The conditionings are going to the Unet, and the latent space, and finally after processing, when we want to get an image, we should decode the latent information into image with image decoder. And this is another diagram exactly with some more explain that you can see here. And yes, everything is about extracting information from image by converting them and adding them to the noise. And after that, we can find some semantic data. So if we want to convert noise to the image here, for example, we can use our trained data in a neural network, exactly in the Unet, for doing the reverse engineering. And also here we are doing that in some different steps, and in each step the final result will be more clear. So finally we can see the image very clear. If I jump to the ComfyUI, here in the load checkpoint, exactly the output of the model is Unet. So the Unet and the information that are stored directly from the Unet are coming from the model. After that, here you can see a yellow output with the name of clip, and exactly here for sending the text and translating the text and sending them into the Unet, we should have engine for converting the text, and the name of that is clip. Here we have the VAE, and the VAE is helping us for converting any image and sending that to latent, because for converting and sending image we should encode that, and after that for converting the latent information to the image, again we should use some decoder. And the engine and the codes are stored in the VAE. So when you are loading a checkpoint, actually you are loading unit information, clip information, and VAE. And all of them will go into the Ksampler, and after that here you can start the processing. In the Ksampler you have the step numbers, and exactly the step number is defining the how much time you are processing a unit. For example, now the step number is 20, and the meaning is you are processing the unit for 20 time. Okay. After that we have a name, we have another name, scheduler, that you can send some select some different algorithms. Now inside the sampler we have a scheduler that we can select some different schedulers, and if I go inside the Unet I can show you that the scheduler can control the noise amount between different steps. For example, you want to do the processing in 16 step, and when you are selecting the Keras scheduler for your noise, after that it's dividing and separating the noise amount in different steps with different values. Another parameter is sampling. Okay, and we have many different sampler name with different solutions, and sampler has a different with scheduler. Sampler is happening inside the Unet. Okay, and for example, if you select DPM2 or DPM2A, maybe some of them can work faster, some of them can work more accurate, or some other parameters. But totally they are happening inside the Unet, and when the processing will start, the sampler will active in different level of Unet, and they are some kind of soft noise injection. We have two important parameters, sampler and scheduler. First, let me start with the scheduler. Jump back to the Unet. I told you in the Unet, for generating image, you're starting with a noisy image or with completely noise, and after that you can get a little better image, and again you are sending image to the starting point. So each time that you are processing the Unet is one step. Noise scheduling and, for example, the chorus can control amount of the noise between different steps. So it's separating amount of the noise for total steps. Now let's see what is the sampler, and we have many different sampler. Okay, jump back to the Unet. Actually, inside the Unet, also we are doing many different processing for converting noisy or noise to the image, and some things will be happen between different level of the Unet exactly inside the Unet, and samplers are controlling the inside of the Unet. So totally the difference between sampler and the scheduler is samplers are happening inside the Unet, but scheduler is happening outside of the Unet. And scheduler is a control over the steps, but sampler is controlled inside the Unet. And each sampler can make some different result for you, or some of them, for example, needs some more time for processing. Actually, for myself, it was very important to figure out that what's the difference between them. When we click on the sampler, we can see many different parameters, but you can separate them in two different categories. All the samplers that are ancestral or SDE are non-convergent sampler, and you cannot predict the result during the processing, and they will change during the processing. And we have the converging samplers like Euler, Hune, DPM+, DPM++, 2M. And actually, for example, when you are using them, you can predict the result during the sampling. So if you want to get some more random result, it's better to use ancestral or SD sampler. And if you want to have a result that could be very predictable, use normal sampler without any ancestral or SD in the name. Alright, so let me do some tests. At first, I will change my scheduler to Keras because some of the samplers are not compatible with normal, and I will select the DPM++ 3M SDE GPU. And during the processing, for example, you can see that it's generating many different things during first steps, and if I increase the steps to 40, also you can see that. But if I select Euler sampler, you can see everything will be much more smoother, or DPM 2M. Everything is very smoother. But when I am using ancestral sampler, you can see many flashing during the processing. And this is exactly related to the amount of noise that injecting inside the unit between different levels. Alright, this is another test to show you that what is the difference between samplers. This was my normal latent, and I sent it to another node for adding high noise to the latent. And now I am trying to send a new latent with a high noise inside the latent. So I'm sending the latent, and during the processing, soft samplers like Euler or DPM++ 2M are not able to remove the noise because the noise injecting inside the unit is not very high. But our latent was it had many high noise. Now I am selecting ancestral. Okay, and easily you can see that the image is ready without any noise. Let me test another ancestral model. Again, you can see there is not any noise inside the image. Or SDE. Just for using the SDE sampler, we need the Keras. Okay, and you can see that all the SDE sampler and the ancestral samplers are able to remove extra noise inside the latent because they are injecting more amount of noise inside the unit, and they can make more random results. But normal sampler that are not ancestral or SDE, they are not able to remove all the noises. So for example, DDPM also is kind of ancestral or SDE or LCM. So with this test, you can understand that what is the difference between the samplers and which sampler could work similar. For example, Euler, Hyun PP, DPM++ 2M, DPM adaptive, they are working same, and they are trying to add detail. So let me tell you one another thing. All ancestral and SDE sampler or LCM, they are good for generating image based on your prompt or control net input. But if you want to work with image to image technique, highly I am suggesting to use samplers like DPM++ 2M or Euler, because they will help you to keep your image. After adding this node, I have to connect the VAE. Okay, let me remove these unwanted nodes. Okay, I have to connect the VAE, and from the pixel I have to add a node for loading image. And for example, I will load this image, and the size of this image is 1024 in 576, so it will be also my latent size. And if I connect this one to the latent, after that it will generate exactly image with this dimension. But we cannot see anything from this bedroom inside this image. It has two reasons. The first one is looking to the prompt, because the prompt is completely different by the content that we have inside the image, and also denoising amount. So first let me play with denoising. If I change the denoising amount, for example, to 66, then you can see it's trying to make a combination between my prompt and the input image. And for example, it make a sheep, but with some colors that we have inside the image. And if I decrease the denoising amount, it can get more information. And for example, now we can see the image, but inside the window we can see the C. So sometimes you can find your desired denoising amount, and it's something very fun, because okay, let me put these two images near each other, and after that we can compare the results. And you can see, for example, here it's trying to add a human. Okay. So with denoising amount about 59, we lost the chair, and it replaced that with a television. I am going higher. And higher. So from 63, it's trying to completely removing the bedroom and going into another scene. And also now if I use some ancestral sampler, the result will be different. Okay, and I think if I go into 59, it has a different effect. For example, with normal Euler, and it can do some another change inside the image. Okay, now let me change my prompt and write a bedroom in Arabian style. Now it's converting my bedroom to some Arabian style, but also it's replacing some objects because denoising is high. And also if I decrease the denoising with about 30 or 40, okay, most of the time it can keep all the structure of the image, and it can add some more detail into the image or repair the incorrect parts. So playing with denoising amount also could be very useful in your designing progress. All right, now let's play and have some fun with this image. I paint this image in Photoshop and I am sending this image into the latent. Okay, I want to test some prompt with some different denoising amount. The first one is with denoising 1 and the prompt is explosion, and you can see the result here. Now I want to decrease the denoise. By decreasing the denoise, you can see we can get the composition and also the color from the image. And if I decrease the denoising amount, it will be more similar to the image. For example, with this amount, there is not any creativity in the image, but for example, with denoising amount about 0.9 or 0.8, you can see that we have the bright background and exactly same composition. Now let me change the prompt, sunset horizon. Okay, at first let me change the denoising amount and paste the prompt here. Okay, I think the composition is a little similar, but if I decrease the denoising amount, the composition and colors will be more similar to the image input. Now if I remove the horizon from my prompt, only it's a sunset. Now let me do another test. For example, this time I want to replace that with basketball. And you can see the result. With different denoising amount. So it's related to your prompt and also to your denoising amount. And for example, let me add the playground and paste that and decrease the denoising amount. Increasing. Okay, and if I add ball to my prompt inside the playground, and play with denoising amount, okay, for example, now I can see a ball inside the playground. Or if I change that to orange, okay, and if I decrease, it will be something like this, and if I increase that, it will be different. The last prompt was explosion, that you see that at first. Also, let's do a test with this prompt. Professional motorcycle helmet. Denoising amount is set to 1, and if we decrease the amount, we can see something like this. Or this one. Or this one. Okay, so completely you can understand that how your prompt and your input image can play with, can work with denoising amounts. Okay, now you know that checkpoint is made from two different parts. Model that is Unet clip for converting text and your prompt and sending them to the Stable Diffusion, VAE for encoding and decoding the image to the latent or from latent. Also, we have some other option in the Ksampler and I want to test them. Before I start testing these options, I want to do some setting in my ComfyUI. I'm clicking on extra option and clicking on auto queue and set the auto queue to change. Now I am pressing the queue. So from now, if I do any change to any parameter, after that, automatically it will start to generate image. So now we can test and explore that what is the difference between these parameters. At first, I want to start with a step. You know, it's the times that we are processing the unit. And for example, if we set the step to 1, fastly it can generate the image, but the image is very blurry and we cannot detect that what is in the image. So if I change the image to 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, so for example, at step 5, you can see that we have something from our prompt, because this is our prompt, okay? Painted of a girl with green hair, wearing a long dress, leaning on the oldest circle and watching the sunset at the beach. A large ship is present in the sea, but it's quite far away. So now we can sum of our elements that we explain in prompt, but I think we need more step. Okay. So from step 7, we can see that the hairs are green, and still we need some more step. At step 8 it's better, step 9, step 10, 11, 12. Okay, now you can see it's trying also to generate the car. Okay, step 14, 15, 16. Okay, and for example, step 20. Most of the time, 20 step could be enough for generating image. So now you figure out that this is the reason. If you do more processing in the unit with a step, you can get much more better image. There is another number with the name of CFG, and totally it's a number that can define the attention to the prompt. But I think it is not working well in a Stable Diffusion. But let me test that. I will start with 1.5. Okay, here you can see the image is very low saturation and it's very gray image, and there is not any car in the image. And for example, if I test the CFG with number 4, we can see some of our elements, but still it has some problems. So normally you can set your CFG between 7 or 8. Also, sometimes you can try and test some higher CFG. Okay, but for example, if I go about 24, you can see many noise in the image, and also sometimes the image will be burned. So this is the CFG, and most of the time you can set that to 7, 5 or 6. It's dependent to you. After that we have the sampler, and the sampler are working inside the unit, and there are some different sampler. But if I want to tell you what's the difference between these samplers, I can divide them in two different parts. Normal sampler like Euler, Heon, PP2 or some other, and the samplers that are starting with A or SDE. Okay, so I think all of them are different because for example, Euler is very soft, but Euler ancestral, it will different between I explained to you that everything that is inside the latent should be converted with VAE, and if you want to send something to the latent, you should use VAE Encode, and if you want to extract some information from the latent, you should use VAE Decode. So if I make a copy from this node, Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V, and connect this empty latent to the VAE Decode, and also add the VAE information from here, after that I can click on this node and release the mouse and select the preview image. So exactly this image is inside the empty latent image, and if you open this image, you can see the resolution of this image exactly same as the resolution that you are defining here. And about the latent, the previous latent that I made, okay, this is the noise that I made with this node, and you can see it has completely different appearance with an image that empty latent can make that. And for sending some image into the Ksampler or into the latent, we can use VAE Encode. So you can double click here and type VAE, and after that select VAE Encode. These are some primitive settings that everyone should know about ComfyUI. ComfyUI made from nodes, and for example, you can move nodes, disconnect and connect nodes to different inputs or outputs. Each node has a name. If you right click on a node and select title, then you can define a custom name for the node. If you go to the manager and after that go to the badge setting, from here you can select ID nickname, and after that you can see a number on top of a node and also one icon. If you see this fox icon only, so you can make sure that this node is a default node from ComfyUI and it is not coming from an extension. So this is very useful and it can help you in many different situations. After that, you have some input and output. First, you should pay attention to the colors. For example, this is clip, and you cannot connect the clip to model or positive or negative. Clip only able to connect to, for example, text encoder nodes. And it's very important, you should pay attention. The output of this node is from conditioning format, and only you can connect that to positive or negative. So it's related to you. But also, if you right click here exactly on this circle and click on rename as a slot, after that you can select another name for the input and also another name for the output. If you press Alt and click on a node and move that, you can make a copy. If you press Ctrl C and after that Ctrl V, it's very important that where is your mouse inside the UI. After that, the node will be pasted. If you press Ctrl Shift V, the node will be pasted with previous input connections. So also it's very important. Another setting is relating to convert to input. For example, here you can see that I have width and height setting. Okay, if I right click on the node and go to convert width to input, I can change width to input and also height to input. If I click and release the mouse, I can go to add nodes, utility and primitive. Actually, the primitive node is very useful. You can add that from utility, okay? And after that, if you connect it to any kind of input, it can change the format of the primitive. For example, now my node, the input node, is from integer. And for example, if I convert the CFG value here, convert the CFG value to input and connect that to primitive node, the output is float. Okay, so this is integer and this is float. And for example, if the output is float, you cannot connect the float output to integer, and you should find a way to convert the value from float to integer and after that do something else. Or for example, this is here I can write my prompt, okay, in this node. If I right click and convert text to input, add a primitive node and connect that to the input, after that you can see here you can write your text and the output of your text is a string format. And you can't connect the string format to integer or float. If you right click and convert sampler or scheduler or parameter control after generation to input and make a new primitive node and connect that, also here you can see that the output is from combo format. For the combo format, it will read automatically the node and after that extract the parameters from the node. So for example, also the scheduler is in combo format, but I cannot connect the combo format that is connected to the sampler also to a scheduler. It will not be connected, you can see. So it's very important to make a new primitive node for each one. And also if you make a copy from primitive node, okay, you cannot connect that, for example, because this primitive node is changed to the float format and you cannot connect that to a scheduler. Okay, and if you want to do that, you should create a new node, a new primitive node. It should be new, and after that you can connect it to your input, so it can get the settings and extract the list. In each node, in float and parameter, and also in combo, you can see a parameter with the name of control after generation, and now it is set to fix. Let me cue the prompt Oops, the latent also need input. So I can connect the weight also to the height. And let me start the prompt. Okay, let me change my seed number. And you know, every time that you are changing the seed number, you can generate a new image and the image will be changed. But if you press Q and nothing happened without any error, so there is not anything new for generating. So now if I change the control after generation to increase, each time that I am pressing the Q, the value in this float number will be increased. Okay? You can see it here. Every time that I am pressing the Q, the value will be increased. Or for example, here, if I select that to increment, also I can select others, but I want to start testing with increment. You can see it's changing the sampler. So every time you can generate image with new sampler, and if it go to the end of the list, it cannot change that. But for example, if you select random, every time maybe it can select another random parameter from your list. So you know that every image that you are generating will be saved inside ComfyUI and inside output folder. And for example, if you clear your workflow and if you drag a PNG file inside the ComfyUI, the workflow that is related to this render will be loaded automatically. If you want to select some nodes, you can hold Ctrl, drag and select some of them. But if you click, you will lose your selection. So if you don't want to lose the selection, you should hold the shift and after that move the nodes. So during this, you can see that these nodes will be snapped to some grids. Okay, but now during the dragging, if you release the shift, after that you can move them freely without snapping to somewhere. Okay, and also if you go to setting and adjust the grid size, for example I want to change that to 300. Now you can see that snapping of these nodes will be happen each 300 pixel. So you can adjust that maybe sometimes with a low value about 10. Also in the setting window, you can select some different color plate. Okay, and maybe it will be interesting for you. If you go to the manager and after that go to setting for double click, you can see by default it's based on copy all connections. Let me show you. For example, I make a copy from the Ksampler by holding Alt, and now if I double click on the Ksampler, it will connect all the connections to the Ksampler. You can try and test some other settings, but I think this parameter, this setting could be fine. By pressing on save, you can save your workflow with JSON format. By pressing on load, you can load a workflow in JSON format or in PNG. There is not any difference between them. If you press refresh, it can reload the directory. For example, sometimes you are making a copy of a checkpoint in your folder, but when you are clicking here, you cannot see that in your list. So sometimes you should press the refresh. I will back to clipspace. If you press clear, all the workflow will be clear. If you press load default, the load default will be load. And if you press reset view, every time it is turned back to this blue rectangle. And also inside the setting, for link render mode, if you select straight, the lines will be rendered straight. If you select linear, okay, there will be some lines with angle. And if you select the normal, the spline was default mode. And if you select the hidden, you can't see the connection between the nodes. For loading image inside the workflow, you should add a node for loading the image. So I'm double click, select load image node. And after that, I can select a file from my hard drive. Also, if I have generated some image, I can right click, select copy clip space. And after that, I can paste the clip space inside the load image node. And also when I am inside the load image node and I have loaded an image from my hard drive or clip space, it doesn't matter. I can right click and go to open in mask editor. And after that, I can define some masked area. And for example, by defining the opacity or color, you can clearly see the area that you are painting. And it's very useful for doing in painting or some kind of add detailing inside your image. Also, if you press Shift and left click, you can zoom on the image. If you press Ctrl and click, you can easily drag the image. By scroll up and down, you can adjust your brush size. Okay, so with this feature, easily you can do painting very high detailing. And also, if you press right click, you can erase the masked area. This is the CMD window, and when we open the ComfyUI, also this window will be open. When I am pressing the Q here in the CMD window, you can see that here I can see some numbers. At first, this 20 per 20 will show our steps. Okay, so for example, now it's under processing, and you can see that totally it should calculate 20%, 20 step. The second number that you see is the time for generating image. After that, you can see another number, and after that here you can see it/s, and this number is iteration per second. For example, if you select high resolution image for generating, or if you add high amount of step or sampling or other thing, after that iteration step will go down and it will take more times. Finally, you can see another number, and it will show that how much time take that your image totally is generated and also saved, and also encoding, decoding, and every other thing. So the last time that you can see here is for generating, encoding, and saving your image. In ComfyUI, in empty latent image, you can see the batch size number. I will increase the batch size number to 8, and I am pressing the Q. Oh, it's not working. I pressed, but it is not working because previously I was clicked on CMD window and I forgot to press enter. Every time that you are clicking on the CMD window, after that you should press enter. Okay, let me back. So I changed the back size to 8, and now it generates 8 image for me. All these 8 images will generating with same setting, and the only thing that will be different between them is seed number. But unfortunately, I don't know how to extract the seed number by default nodes. I know that I can install some extension on ComfyUI for finding the seed numbers, but for other image, but by default, I don't know how to do that. If you know, please write in the comment for me. When you are increasing the batch size, it will generate image faster. For example, if you want to generate 8 images each one by one, it will take more time. But if you add batch size, the generation time will be faster. But also you should pay attention that your VRAM will be used very, very higher. For example, now if I generate only one image, you can see that the VRAM that is using for generating one image is about 200 megabytes. But for example, if I generate 32 image in batch size at same time, from 5.5 it went to 9.5. So it's using, for example, 8 gigabytes. So if you have some limitation in VRAM, don't adjust the batch size in high numbers. Also here you can see that because we are generating huge numbers of image, the iteration per second number also went down. But totally, I think it's a very good timing because we have generated 32 image only in 29 seconds. And here you can see all these 32 different images. So again, all the setting is same for this image, and just the seed number is different. Now if you click on extra option, you can see a number and the name is batch count. The batch count is completely different by batch size. For example, now if I press Q prompt for several times, okay, you can see that I have some running and also some pending prompts, okay, because I pressed the Q for many times. And also please pay attention to the seed number because it has set to the incremental, and each time that I am pressing, it's going high. Okay, for example, now the seed number, the last number is 70. Okay, let me delete them. Now if I increase the batch size, for example, to number 5, and pressing the Q prompt, so you can see it's creating 5 Q for me, and also each time my seed number will be one number increments. So totally for the last image, the seed number is 575. And again, if I press, after that you can see it's trying to make a queue for me. So it's completely, this batch count is completely different by batch size. I hope that you have understood, and you can also adjust the batch count. There is one other option, auto queue. If you press auto queue and after that press Q prompt, you have two different options, instant and change. Okay, so now every time, now it's set on instant, and after generating image, automatically it will generate another image because the control after generate is set to increment, and it will make some change in the workflow. And let me change that to the fix. Okay, so now still it is working, and you can see here in the CMD window that it's trying to generate something, but there is not anything for generating. So this time now I'm changing that to change. Now if you check the CMD window, you can see it is not doing anything. But if I do a little adjustment or a little change in one parameter, after that it's starting to generate the image automatically. So sometimes it's very, very useful for checking, for example, different parameters in your workflow. If you click on view history, you can see the image that you have generated. And if you click load, after that, the image will be loaded with same setting. Or if you press delete, you can delete that. And there is another option with queue front. So if you have a long list in the queue and you are doing some change, once that you are pressing the queue front, your last change will go into the front of the queue. Another new option that is added to the ComfyUI is for zooming. If you press Ctrl and Shift and left click, you can zoom smoothly in the workflow. Here I made a workflow to detect the converge and non-convergent samplers. Before starting, at first please make sure that the parameter that control your seed is set to fix and you are using a fixed seed number. After that, we need the add noise node. Add noise. It's a node that can add extra noise in our latent. So the add noise need 4 different input. One of them is model. The model will connect to the model. Also it needs noise, so click on that and release the mouse. And after that, select random noise. Also here, please make sure that you are selecting the fixed parameter for random noise. After that, it needs a sigma. Click, release, and from here you can select the basic scheduler. And also sigma need one input. So connect the model to the model. And also this node needs some latent input. So I have connected the empty latent to the node. So I can delete my old nodes. And here I have my new nodes. Okay, let me arrange them. Okay, great. And now I can connect the latent into Ksampler. Now I want to test these different samplers and make sure which one is better for me. I can right click and click convert widget to input, and after that I want to select to convert sampler name to input. Add a primitive node and connect the primitive to input. So now we can see all the samplers. In parameter control after generation, I will select the increment. So it will, if I press the Q prompt for many times, or if I add a batch size, it will generate and calculate all of them. Okay, now it's better go to your save image node and write a folder name before the image name. And if you write something here and after that put some slash, it will create a folder with this name in your output folder and will place the output of this node in this folder with this name. So now set the batch count exactly equal to your number of your samplers and press Q. So now I want to press Q, so pay attention please. Okay, you can see it creates 22 different Q with these parameters. And if I go to the output folder, okay, and go to folder sampler-test, then I can see it's trying to save the image exactly inside this folder. And also you can check the image number, and after that, for example, you can understand that image number 10 is, for example, which sampler. So I think this is a very, very fast way to do a test. Also, you can do a professional setup for making a test plot, but actually this solution can work very fast and easy. All right, so all these noisy images are using the samplers that are Converge, and all these sharp images are using non-convergent samplers. So I think the samplers in noisy images could be fine and good for image to image, and the samplers in sharp images could be very good for text to image or using control net. So you can take the decision. And also, for example, if you drag this image inside the ComfyUI, you can see the sampler. For example, the sampler of this for this image was DDPM, and the sampler for this image is DPM adaptive, and the sampler for this image is LMS. So with this trick you can do many different tests, because you can convert any parameters to input, and if you connect a primitive node, also you can control the parameter after generation, for example, to increment, decrement, or random. This is a very simple workflow for creating image to image with some denoising amount. I will make a selection, Ctrl C and Ctrl Shift V. Now I have these nodes. For the second one, I can change the sampler and scheduler and press Q prompt. Now I have two sampler in one workflow. Maybe you can have 100 samplers. If you select some of them and press Ctrl M, you can mute some nodes in workflow, and after pressing Q, they will not work. Okay, because they are muted in the workflow. And again, if you select them and press Ctrl M, they will be active. But please keep in your mind, because you can't mute the node that are in the middle of the workflow. For example, now if I select this node and press Ctrl M, after that, the ComfyUI understand that this node is not existing in the workflow and it needs some input. So for the nodes that are in the middle of the workflow, you cannot use the mute option, because it will break the data flow in your workflow. Also, we have another option to show that I want to make some change in my workflow. Right click, image, and post processing. From here, I want to select blur, send the image to the blur, and after that, I want to send the image to VAE Encode. So by adding this node, I can make some blur effect. Also, from the output, I want to create a preview image node, and if I queue, you can see that this node make the image very blur. And if I reduce the denoise amount, you can see a blur image inside the Ksampler. So for example, now the image blur is a middle node. And if I press Ctrl M, after that my workflow cannot be forked. But if I press Ctrl B, okay, and also you can understand the color is changed. I can queue my prompt and you can see that the image is directly went through this node to the VAE decode, and this node is not working, but it is passing the input to the output. So this is the biggest difference between bypassing or muting. And also with this technique with bypassing node, you can create very complicated and big workflows because you can control the active nodes, and also it will not break your data flow. If you right click on a node, you can see the bypass option, and you can also bypass that from here or pressing Ctrl B on your keyboard. Another very useful node is reroute, and it can help you to organize your workflow. And for example, here I can add this to the node, and it can help me to keep my workflow organized. This is my prompt. Okay, and for example, here you can see the rose flower. If I select the rose flower, press Ctrl and press arrow down, I can change the rose flower in my image. Okay, and for example, now you can't see many rose flower, or if you click here, it is not necessary. After creating these numbers, it is not necessary to select all the words. Just click here and press Ctrl and arrow up. You can increase the weight of the rose flower and press Q. So normally all the words are with weight 1, and you can see that also you can increase that. So in this image, most of the image will contain with rose flower, but if you increase the weight of the prompt, also it can make some problem for you because it's very similar to the CFG effect. Also, if you increase your CFG effect, you can see some of this burning effect in your image. Sometimes adjusting negative prompt is very important. People inside an office building is my prompt, and if you look at to the render image, you can see some men's and also some women's. But if in the negative prompt I add girl and woman, after that in the generated image only you can see the men's, and there is not any woman inside the render. You remember I told you when you are downloading a model from Civit AI, go to the model page and also check the description. Here you can see some negative prompt that are working very good with a Stable Diffusion. So you can copy and paste them in the negative prompt. Now imagine that there is a way for writing many negative prompts and save them in a file, and after that load them. Okay, already it is here. They are embedding, and Unrealistic Dream is one of the embedding. If I click on that, the page will be open, and here in the type you can see this is embedding. So these are some files, you can download them and place them inside your model folders, and after that you can use them inside your negative prompt. Here there are two files, Bad Dream and Unrealistic. Download both of them. After downloading, go to your ComfyUI folder, models, and after that go to embedding folder and paste it here. Now inside ComfyUI, we should write the embedding name inside the negative prompt area. This is the format that we can use for writing the embedding in the prompt. So let me copy the format from here, go to my negative prompt, paste it. Okay, so it's starting by embedding. After that, I have placed the file name and also the extension. So for example, unrealisticdream.pt, copy that from here and paste it here. And after that, this is the weight of the embedding, and now it's 1. You can increase or decrease that. Now let me press Q. So it's trying to generate a little better image. Sometimes they are very effective. What is LORA? If you click, you can load the node with the name of LORA. Before going to the LORA, let me back to the concept of the Unet. You know, training a checkpoint could be very, very expensive, and it's very hard to train a complete new checkpoint. So now imagine that there is a way, or there is a solution that you can make some customization inside the Unet, and for example, do some special training and make some change inside the pre-trained Unet. Okay, and exactly this is the LORA. So this is a solution for making some change to the previous data that was trained inside the Unet. And how we can use that? If you go to Civit AI and after that click on model, from the filter, let me wait for the image. Okay, from the filter you can select the LORA from model type. Okay, so this is model type, and from here select LORA. After that, you should select a checkpoint that the LORA could be compatible with that. I will select the SD 1.5. And after some seconds, it will make a list for me. And also the other filter that I have is the sort is based on most downloaded. And it's on time period set on all time. So these are some great LORA that people downloaded them. For example, this LORA can help us to create some image with high contrast. This LORA can help us to add more detail to the image. And for example, we have many different LORA. For example, this LORA can help us to make some people's in this clothing style or in this painting style. So let me download that and do a test. Okay, after downloading, I should go to my ComfyUI, and after the models, from here I have to select the LORAs and paste the downloaded LORA here. Then I can turn back to my ComfyUI, press refresh, and after that it can show me the LORA that I have placed inside the folder. Now I have connected the LORA inside my workflow. It needs to input, model, and also the clip. So after that, the clip should be connected to the prompts, and model should go to the Ksampler. Okay, so this is the solution, and a string and also the clip set to 1. Now I am pressing Q. Okay, this is the same prompt by adding the LORA, but I can't see any change. All right, what's the problem? If I go to the Civit AI and check the description, here I can see in the description, add the prompt, full body, and chibi. Okay, so I should copy that. The name of this prompt is trigger. Okay, so it will active the LORA. We have added the LORA inside the workflow, but it is not active yet. And when we are writing this prompt, okay, inside our text, after that, the LORA will be active. So Q and okay, great. So you can see that the characters exactly are in same style that we can see in the trained LORA. So we have activated the LORA, and actually it made some change inside the Unet, and it makes some bias for creating this kind of characters. Now let's test the AP noise offset. And in the description, you can see that they suggest use these prompts. So I'm making a copy and paste them here. Okay, add a comma. And here, this time I want to test AP noise offset and press Q. So you can see that the style of the image is completely with high contrast, and it's very similar to the styles that we can see here about the contrast. Another interesting LORA is AnimeLinart, and it can help us to generate this kind of arts. So let me test that. So this time I will select anime outline and press Q. Okay, I have added everything, but the result is not in Linart's style. So again, I'm going to the page and check the information. At first, I'm trying to find some trigger word, but actually there is not any specific trigger word inside the descriptions. So I'm opening some of these images. Okay, for example, here in the prompt, I can see two prompt, Linart and monochrome. Also, it used easy negative and bad hand as negative embedding. And how can I download them? So let me find, okay, here is the link. I can download and place them inside the folder. Now I have to add those two embedding to my prompt. Okay, so one of them was easy negative with the extension of safe tensor, and make a copy, put comma. The name of one another was bad hand, and also I have to correct my prompt, and let me add a drawing. And one last step is changing the checkpoint, because the realistic vision is trained for making realistic images, but Rev Animated is very better for making some artistic style. And press Q. For the last test, I will click on that and copy all the prompt. And for the last time, I will test this prompt with my setting. And this is exactly with same setting, and just I change the prompt. I keep the masterpiece best quality, and I have changed all the prompt to house interior, and I can get this drawing. So let me change that with a car, for example. Okay, and now it can make a drawing for a car. So this structure is working very fine with this LORA. And you figure out that each LORA, some of the LORAs need some trigger word, some of them needs some embedding, and also if they are very stylish, maybe you have to check and test them with some different checkpoints. HyperSD is the most new acceleration technique for stable diffusion. It is working with SDXL and also SD 1.5. And also you can add that as a LORA, because you know that the LORA will try to change the Unet. And also this is the reason that you can add something like HyperSD as the LORA. For downloading the LORA, also you can select the LORA model that you want from here and click on the download. But I prefer to go to the GitHub page, and after that you can find more information about this technique. Totally, for example, here you can see that this engine was able to generate these images only in one step. Normally for SDXL, it will take about 25 steps, but with this technique, you can generate image only with one step. Please check the HyperSD page in Hugging Face, because you can find many useful information. But if I want to tell you very simple, we have some different models and update in HyperSD. At first, it's n-step LORAs that is working with CFG number 1, but it's possible to use that with any default workflow. After that, they released a checkpoint that needs a custom scheduler, but it is able to work with one step. After that, they released a LORA that is working with one step. And finally, they released another LORA that is working with 12 steps. And also, it's working with CFG number between 5 to 8. And yes, it's also for SDXL and SD 1.5. So if you go to files and versions, then you can see them here. Check the date, and after that you can find them. For example, this is the checkpoint. This is the last LORA for SD 1.5 that is working with CFG. And these are one-step LORA model or other LORA models that you can see. After downloading the LORA and checkpoints, you should place them inside the folder. The checkpoints should place inside the checkpoint folder, as you see here. And the LORAs should be placed inside the LORA folder. After that, you can go to the ComfyUI inside the HyperSD. And here you can find some JSON files that are workflows for ComfyUI. You can download them and also place them inside another folder. Okay, now open the ComfyUI and drag the workflow inside the workspace. For example, now I want to start with SDXL one-step Unet. So when I am dragging, I can see an error because this needs some specific scheduler and it's an extension. When you have some missing node inside the ComfyUI, you should install the extension. Because previously I have installed the Manager extension. After that, I can click on Manager, go to install missing custom nodes. And after that, I can select missing custom node and install that on my ComfyUI. It will take some time for downloading the data automatically in your computer, and after that you should restart the ComfyUI. Okay, after restarting, you can see that now we can see the node and it's possible to start the processing. And for the checkpoint, you can see it's using the HyperSDXL one step. So let me queue the prompt and see really is it possible to generate image with one step and what is the quality. Okay. Oh, I think the quality is great for one step. And let's do a test. I'm clicking an extra option, auto queue and unchange. So, and also let me change my control after generation to fix because I don't want to change my seed number. And let me change a prompt, a car. Oh, really? It's fast. Let me open the sampler preview. A car near a beach. And this is another prompt. This is my prompt and this is the image. And if you look to the sampler setting, you can see that CFG is set to 1. If you increase the CFG, the image will be burned. And if you decrease the CFG, the situation inside the image will be go and the quality will be low. So it's only working with CFG number 1. And this is my negative prompt. If I write here day, I can't see any different, okay, in the final image because the CFG is 1 and it cannot process my negative prompt. So negative prompting is not working and it will not make any change inside the one step unit. So please keep that in your mind. And also about the step, here if I increase the step, I cannot see any different or any improvement in my image. So I can tell you that this checkpoint is very great for testing the prompt or maybe only making some preview. Okay, now let me test the last update and it's working with 12 step and also it's working with CFG and it will be loaded as a LORA. Okay, for testing that, I should load the n-step LORA workflow. Okay, and when I am loading n-step LORA workflow, you can see that there is not any extra extension for ComfyUI. And the only thing that is different here is that our sampler name is set to ddime and the scheduler set to uniform. Actually, I think you can change your sampler, but about the scheduler, they suggest that we use the SGM uniform. And here I should load a SDXL checkpoint. And from here, I have to load my LORA. And I want to select SDXL 12 step, CFG LORA, and increase the step to 12. Press Q prompt. Okay, it's trying to load my checkpoint. It will take some times. After that, LORA, and okay, we have the image. But let me check the setting. Okay, this LORA model was working with high CFG between 5 to 8. So I should test the CFG with about 5. And let me use another sampler like DPM ++2M. And let me queue prompt. Okay. I can see the image and actually the quality is not bad. With only 12 step. and it doesn't need any extension or anything extra. Okay, great. The last workflow that I want to test with HyperSD is one step LORA. Okay, and this is the LORA that is working only with one step. So it needs another extension, and I have to install TCD model sampler extension. So again, I have to go to Manager, click on Install Missing Custom Node, and install this scheduler. So after installing, you can see here I have the TCD model sampling node and I should load a checkpoint, a SDXL checkpoint here, because I want to test the SDXL one-step LORA model at first. Okay, and press Q. Actually, TCD model will config your scheduler and sampler both. So it's the quality that it can generate with one step. But actually, I think the quality of the Unet was better than the LORA. But still, it's not bad only for one step. So let me do a test, auto queue based on change, and set the control after generation to fix, and let me change my prompt. And also here I can see that the step set to 4. I need only one step. Okay, so with one step still it cannot work very fine. A car near a beach. Okay, you can see actually with one step it's working, but the quality is not interesting. So finally, I think the best way for using the HyperSDXL is loading that as a LORA and use the 12-step CFG LORA model, because it doesn't need any extra extension and it can generate high quality image, and also it is working with your negative prompt. So for example, here, if I remove my negative prompt, after that you can see that it's working and it will affecting on the image generating. So I think this is the most optimal way for using the HyperSDXL. This is the bonus part of the video, and now I want to do something interesting with HyperSD 1.5 one step. Okay, at first I have go to the manager, install, click on install custom node, and add a custom node to ComfyUI. The custom node that I want to add is canvas tab. Okay, so I should search the name, and from here I have to click and install the canvas tab. And after that, it will make a window for me to do some painting. All right, now we can go to add nodes, image, and add a node with the name of edit in another tab. And if you press the edit, the new tab will be open in your computer, in your browser. If you have two monitors, you can move that in another monitor and do the painting inside the image. If you don't have, you can minimize the window, and once that, for example, you draw some line here, you can see that the image will be automatically added here. And if you press Q and change, it can start the queue after any change in ComfyUI. If you draw something here, after that it will be sent to the ComfyUI. Here in the canvas, now we have two images and we can draw on them. But for example, an image B, when we are drawing, we cannot see any update in ComfyUI. If we press the green button, after that, this image will be sent to ComfyUI. And this one will be deactive. Okay. Now it is not active, and if you press, it will be active. If you click on new image, you can create a new image with new size. Okay. And by scrolling, you can zoom in or zoom out. And after that, you can move it. If you click on the red button, it will be delete. And now this is my active painting area. Also here you have some tools, you can test them, and this is your layers. All right, now I have this image and I want to send this image to my latent, and it will be the image to image workflow. So I will add a VAE encode, connect the VAE to the node so it can help me to encode my image and make a latent. And after that, just I have connected latent to Ksampler. So based on my prompt, okay, you can see that it's trying to generate something just similar to the composition, but with very different lighting and coloring. So if I change the denoising amount, now this time the denoising amount is inside TCD sampler, but the name is denoising. And you know that I have activated the extra option, auto queue and change. You can see when I am changing the denoising amount, I can get more fill from my input image, and it will be more similar and similar to my image. So actually combining the HyperSD in SD 1.5 could be very interesting for doing some tests with painting. So for example, I want to select a value like this, and let me change the painting. Oh, okay, let me select white color for all the area. Okay, and after that I want to start to make something. Oops, okay. Like this, so it will be my vase, and add some flower. And making another vase here. Oh, this time it thought it could be made from glass. Interesting. And maybe add some wave inside that. And add some more shadow. And inside that, also let me see that is it possible to add some grassing detail. So every time it thought that everything should be only flower, and only if I get some prompt about grass, maybe it can understand that I'm trying to add some grass also. And if I play with denoising amount, everything will be more similar to my drawing. And if I increase that, it will pay attention to my prompt.